If we were sitting together right now, I'd probably start by saying something slightly uncomfortable but true. Running an MLM business is not actually difficult because of the people. People are the easy part. What makes it difficult is everything that happens between them. Who introduced whom, who sold to whom, who should be paid on what, and under which legal tax rules all of these things need to happen. That is the stuff that either quietly holds a company together or slowly tears it apart. On the surface, most networks look simple. Somebody joins, they tell a few friends, they sell a few products, and commission gets paid. Everyone sees the tree and assumes that that's the business. But the tree is not the business. The tree is just a visual. The business is the movement of money, obligations, and legal responsibilities between thousands of independent people. Now take that basic model and stretch it across Europe, and you very quickly realize just how fragile it is. You might have someone in Spain who recruits someone in Poland, who sells to a customer in France while being paid by a company registered in Ireland in euros into a German bank account. That single sale is no longer just a transaction. It carries VAT implications across borders, supply rules, income reporting, and consumer protection laws that vary depending on where the person sits. And that is happening all the time, not as an exception, but as the norm, the way business operates, and that's especially in Europe. Most MLM companies never build their systems with that reality in mind. They start with something that works where everyone's in the country, a CRM, a basic genealogy engine, a commission calculator, and for a while, that kind of feels fine. But then the network grows. People move countries, they recruit across borders, they want to be paid in different currencies, their tax applications change. The neat structure of that software no longer matches what actually happens in the real world. That is when the quiet problems start. You see, in a small way at first, someone gets paid slightly late because a bank transfer had to be rerouted. Someone else disputes a commission because they moved countries and the system still thinks they live somewhere else. Finance starts doing manual adjustments to make the numbers line up with what the bank statements are showing. None of that feels dramatic, but it adds up. Every manual fix introduces risk. Every workaround creates another place where reality and the system can drift apart. Over time, that gap, believe me, becomes bigger, and it's a real problem. What you end up with is a company that looks fine on the surface, but underneath is running on patchwork of half-trusted data. The people in the back office know that the numbers are not quite right, but no one can point to exactly where the problem is because it's spread across multiple systems. Now, that is not a technology problem. That is an architecture problem. At NetReady, we made a very deliberate choice from the start. We said that identity and genealogy aren't features. They're the foundation of the entire business. Because if you don't know with certainty who each person is in the network, where they're based, how they're allowed to earn, then everything is built on top of that and it becomes unstable. So when somebody joins a NetReady-powered company, they're not just creating a login. They're establishing a legal and financial identity inside the system. Their country, their residency, their selling rights, their tax context, their position in the network, they're all part of the same record. Now that sounds technical, but what it means in practice is that the system always knows who somebody really is in the business, not just in marketing terms. Now when a sale happens, NetReady does not just look at the upline and push out a percentage. It understands the transaction as a real-world economic event. It knows which company is making the sale. It knows which VAT rules apply to that person, which distributors are entitled to earn from it, and how the money should be split and reported on. Now, that is a very different way of running a network. So when that Polish distributor sells to that French customer under an Irish entity, NetReady understands the entire chain without anyone needing to intervene. It applies the right VAT, attributes the revenue to the correct company, calculates the commission for the right people, and records everything in a way that can actually stand up to scrutiny. That is not a nice to have. In Europe, it's the difference between running a scalable business and running something that works until it gets too big. Now, most CEOs only really discover this when they try to expand. They go into a second or third country and suddenly the questions start coming in. How do we handle VAT here? How do you pay people there? Which entity is responsible for the sale? If your identity and genealogy systems was not built to answer those questions out of the box, you end up bolting things on and hoping for the best. NetReady takes a different approach. It assumes complexity from day one, and it's built at its core as a platform to deal with that. That is why you can look at your network and know in real time who is active, where they are based, what they have sold, and what they're entitled to earn. Not as an estimate, but as a fact. And when you have that, everything else becomes easier. You can trust the numbers, you can make strategic decisions, you can expand into new markets without feeling that you're stepping into the dark. That is what identity and genealogy really mean in a European MLM business. It's not about drawing a tree on a page. It's about building an operating system that always knows who sold what to whom and under which rules and why. Get that right, and growth becomes something you can manage. Get it wrong, and no amount of motivation or marketing will save you. If you're running or even just considering running an MLM business in Europe, I genuinely encourage you to reach out and have a conversation with us at netready.ai. There's no sales pitch waiting for you on the side. Just a straightforward, honest discussion about what you're trying to build and whether we could realistically help you. Most platforms are built for simple single country operations and then stretched when the companies go global. We did it the other way around. We built NetReady for the most complex environment first so that everywhere else feels really simple.